Welcome to the second part of this tutorial series, and in this one I'll be showing you how to implement this design screen. So in this series I'll show you how to create a basic search based on this text value and also how to style the UI like this. So let's hand over to Android Studio and let's get started. So back in Android Studio, the first thing to do would be to create this UI widgets folder if you've not created it, and you create a new file called search.dat. So this is what we want to actually achieve. We want to actually achieve this search bar over here. So I'll just paste this code because we've covered most of all these things in our previous YouTube UI course. So what this stuff does is simple. It just creates a card and inside and gives it an elevation of 3.0. So you can see from this screenshot you have a card UI over here. This is a card UI over here. It gives it an elevation of 3 and the rounded rectangle border, which you can see over here. Then for the child, it has a padding, so that gives it the space around all the whole elements inside it. Then after the padding, it now has a child. The padding has a child of row. So the row items are going to be this search icon, this text field which is set to expanded, which fills up the whole remaining area, and also this last icon which is for settings. So you can see that in the row over here, the icon with the gesture detector, because I can click on the icon to perform the search, or I could just click use the onSubmitted event to actually execute. And also we have the sized box of 10, which is just this space in between the icon and the text field, and you can see the settings for the text field, and finally the settings for the slider settings icon over here. And for this slider icon I used font awesome, so you can see the imports at the top over here. So that is that for that. So the next thing to do would be to implement or to use this search widget in our UI. So we'll head back to the search screen, and for the silver app bar, the title is going to return a container, or I'll just return the search widget directly and see how that looks. So I'll import it and I'll save. So let's head over to our emulator and see. So we can see the UI is implemented. And why are you taking so long? So this is cool. So we've implemented the search UI. So I'll be posting the GitHub repo link to this project, so you could just copy that if you don't want to just type this out. So let's write on. So this is looking good. So the next thing to do would be to actually get the value from this search bar. So instead of manually adding it over here, because you can see our placed name is equals to this location is equals to Brighton. So instead of doing this manually, we want to do that dynamically. We want to get that value dynamically from this search bar over here. So to achieve that, the first thing would be to first of all, in our my app build method, we'll first comment this get properties. So we won't be calling it by default. So we just want to call it whenever we are on this text field and we press enter, or whenever we click on this search icon. So I'll comment this. So we won't be able to call it whenever our app loads. So I head back to the search screen and see. Okay, so in our search widget over here, we're gonna use, let me see, get properties. Okay, so we're gonna have a function called a field called get properties or get props. Let me just call it get properties. Okay, so get properties is going to be a final field, and we'll just create it in our constructor. Good. So this dot get properties can start with an underscore. Okay, I think this is a DATS 2.1 stuff, but I would not name this get properties. Let me just name it do search or perform search. Perform search function. So cool, perform search, but I don't know, I think this is DATS 2.1 ish. Okay, so let's just remove that underscore. So the perform search is going to be a value would pass to our search widget. So this is going to be a function. So perform search, then in our text field onSubmitted function, onSubmitted event, we just do perform search, and we'll pass it the place. So you might be asking, where are we going to actually implement this perform search from? And I'll show you how simple that is. So now this search widget requires, I'll just put the at required over here. Okay, so it requires this field called perform search. So I'll head back to our search screen, and in our search widget I'll just pass it perform search is going to be equals to model.getProperties. Voila. So I'll just come, I'm not supposed to see this, so I'll just come and do a hot restart. This stuff isn't supposed to show. Okay, so what's wrong with my logic? So, but first of all, you get the whole idea. So whenever this perform search, we're going to pass in, I don't think there's a need for this. So model.getProperties, and model.getProperties needs, if you can see over here, model.getProperty is, this getProperties function is now going to need a string argument or string parameter. So it's gonna take in place, because remember I told you we want to get this stuff dynamically. So I'll just also add that to this get data function. I think I'll name it location instead of place. String. Let me leave it as place. So you can see this place is now an argument. So over here we'll just replace this Brighton with the place value. So instead of having Brighton manually, we now get it from the argument of this function. So we also pass this here too. So let's save that, and I'll explain the hierarchy, but I want to see why this stuff still loads. So back in search screen, perform search, model.getProperties. So let me do a hot restart and see, then I'll explain. Okay, cool. It's no longer showing the circular progress indicator. So now I'm gonna come here and search in Plymouth. Yep. I'll click enter, which is the unsubmitted event over here. Cool. This is looking really cool. So you can see our search is from Plymouth. So I could also search for something else. So let me just explain what just happened now. So in our get properties and get data, we passed a new string argument called place, and this place is going to replace this URI over here. So instead of manually writing the place, we are getting it via the argument of the function, which is place. So we passed that in get data and also in get properties, because this is the property we're going to be using in our UI, in our application. Get data is just basically for this model. So I could just make this private. Cool. I could just make get data private. So get data is currently private and this is looking good. So we just pass in the place we have here. So back in our search screen, we passed in model.getProperties, but we did not pass in the place argument. You might ask why, and the reason is simple. The place argument is going to be gotten from the text field over here, and over here we don't have access to the value of the text field, so we just pass in the model.getProperties without the argument. But this stuff is going to require it down the tree of this search widget. So we now head over to SearchWidget, and onSubmitted of our text field we now called perform search. And remember, perform search is the value of model.getProperty. You can see it over here. So in our search here, we now called perform search, which is just like getting model.getProperties. And since we have access to the value of the text field in the onSubmitted method, we can now pass it. But if we don't pass it at all here, our application is going to complain. So that is how to actually create the search. So we are actually making progress here. So the next thing I'd want to do would be you can also add the on tap events of this search stuff here, and you can just add oops. Okay, we would have to find a way. So if I wanted to add this, if I wanted to add perform search in this icon over here, so whenever I click this icon over here, I would want to do a perform search. But now you might ask, where do we get this value? To actually do that is quite simple. So instead of doing the onSubmitted method and getting the value of this input field over here, we could just create a text controller up here. But I'm not going to implement that. I'll leave you guys to implement that. It's very, very simple. You can actually do the text controller.text to get the value, and we could pass it in the perform search function in your tap event of this icon. So I'll leave you guys to do that so we could just make progress in this tutorial. So we're actually making progress here. Let's just do one more search. Yeah, I would search London. We got bad guys in the London town. Bad guys in the London town. So our whole logic seems to be working currently. You can see London. So we are actually making progress. So the next thing to do would be to let's take a look at the screenshot. Would be to create this design. So let's head over to let's take a look at the design first of all. So in this design, this is going to be a particular item instead of our text we have. So this item is going to have a row first of all. So the first child of the row is this picture, and the second child of the row is this container over here. And inside this container, we are going to have a column. So the first child of the column will be this first text, the second child this, and the third child would be this row. So now we've analyzed this, the next thing would be to actually create this view. So to achieve this, the first thing I would want to do would be to head over to our model and add these fields. So in our model we don't have this lister name, and in our model we don't have this other stuff. So I'll just copy and paste this stuff and I'll show you guys right now. So here is the updated model class. So I just added some more values to them. You can have access to this in my GitHub repo, in the GitHub repo of this course, so you will just copy and paste them. But I just have to point out one or two new things. So we also have the nullable annotation here, which means that this listing variable can be null. And also when you have a value like this from our API, so according to that standards, variable names are supposed to be like camel case, but if you want to transform it from this underscore into camel case, you could just use this simple annotation called the build value field with the wire name property. Then you pass it what the API returns, then underneath it you now pass it what you actually want. So the difference here is the one the API returns is the underscore separated one, while yours is the camel case. So we also added more fields, the same idea. We also added more fields here. So I intentionally commented out this bitrate number because it would give you a problem. So I just commented it, then I'll tackle the problem later on in the video. And I would also comment out this keyword list over here. So this is it. So the only new thing here is this nullable annotation and build value field. I'll explain what this memoized means and also how to tackle this later on. So let us save this and generate it once more, so it will give you an error. So this time around I'm going to use build runner watch, so I don't have to be writing this command over and over again. So we'll wait for this. Okay, I think it is successful. Okay, not yet, it's still running. Okay, cool. So where is the error from? Oops. Okay, I just removed this. It was when I was copying and pasting. So watch and see, if I just save, it automatically runs it just like it did now. So this is good. So the next thing would be to go create the UI. And let's check our Android emulator so everything is not broken yet. So we'll go to our project, and under UI widgets we'll be creating a new widget called product property item. Yep. So property item is just gonna be one individual list item over here. So we're gonna be creating that right now, and we would replace it with this text over here. So for property item, it's gonna be a stateless widget. Property item. Oops, where are you? Property item. Let me close this. So what is property item going to return? It's going to return a let me see, it's going to return a container. Okay, or it should just return a row first of all. it's going to return a container. So before that, this property item is going to need a property. So remember, we defined what a property is. So a property is going to have access to title, summary, thumb URL and other fields in this. So property item, you're going to pass it a property of name property. Then I'll just create its constructor and pass it this dot property. Then I'll import the property class. Can't define a constructor with non-final. Okay, so I'll make this final. Cool. So now let's start styling this. So if you took my YouTube UI course in the previous playlist, you would see you can actually just visualize how I would style this before actually seeing the changes. So I'm going to build everything here before actually seeing the changes. So I'll give it a height of 120. I think that's okay. Yeah, this is that 2.1. So in that 2.1, it's not necessary you have to add this 0.0 to show double. You could just add 120 and that compiler would infer the type double for you. So when I pass 120, it implicitly infers it to type double. So no need for the .0. So height 120, and the next thing is gonna be a row. What am I doing? Okay, the first child is gonna be a row. So the row is gonna have children, and the first child of the row is gonna be a container, and the container is gonna contain this image. So we'll pass that in a decoration image using the box decoration, and we'll also use the image decoration image, and the image is gonna be network image, and the URL will be property.thumb URL, which is what we've generated in our built value class. So this is cool. And the next item, okay, no, let's continue with this. So we'll have the fit box fit.cover. And is there any other thing? Nope. Is there a height property? No. Okay, we'll just give the height over here. So the height is going to be 100. Oops. The height is going to be 100 and the width is going to be 80. Cool. So we're done with that. So the next thing, so the height and the width, height of 100, width of 80. That is the height of this image will be 100, the width will be 80. So before I do this, I think I would put this row in a padding. I'll wrap it with a padding of 16. Cool. So after the container, the next thing would be this item over here, and this item is going to be a column. I could also put it in a container, so I'll put it in a container. And the child is going to be a column. So the reason I'm putting it in a container is just in case I need to add some padding to it. So the first child is going to be a text. And the text is going to be property dot title. Oops, title. Cool. The next one is also going to be a text, and it's going to be property dot lister name. So if this lister name doesn't exist, we'll put on available. I'm available. So what this does is, if this stuff is null, you just print out unavailable. Cool. So let me just wrap everything using string interpolation. So I could just add some extra text over here. So I could just add by. Okay, cool. So the next item would be a sized box of 10, height of, yeah, it's a column, so they are, yeah, 10. So the next one is a row. So this row over here is this stuff, the row with the price and this bed icon and this shower icon. So the size box of 10 is just the space from this text to this next row. So for the row, we have a text field, a text of property dot price formatted, and we also have let's just leave it this way, because this second stuff here is going to be a separate widget. So let us see how this looks for now. So I'll save this, and in our search screen I would replace this stuff with instead of text, I'll replace it with property item. Cool. So property item just needs the property, so I'll remove title. So models of property, that particular index is the property. So I'll minimize this and hit on hot reload, and let's see the magic. Oops. Okay, URL not equals to null, blah blah blah. So there are some image URLs that are some thumb URLs from this property item, this network image. There are some thumb URLs that are null from the API. So not all API has this thumb URL, and from this Nestoria, I think there is a come on, where are you? From Nestoria, there is a particular setting for you to just return only APIs, to return only properties that has photos. Come on. Oh, okay. I'll connect the internet and come back. Okay. So this is the property, has photo. So set it to 1 to retrieve only listings which has a photo. So I could just simply do my normal. I could do, if this is null, then I could just use a random pick. I don't know that site that gives you random images, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to go to our scoped model declaration over here, and in our URI I'll add this stuff. So later on I'll show you how to construct a better URI using that, but let's just add this somewhere. So listing type by, so search listing and has photo equals to 1, and so we'll do this. I think we need to do a hot restart. So play notes, that will do. Okay, bedroom number. Okay, typecast. I see. So I'll head back to this and remove this thing. Later I'll show you how to correct. I saved this. Oh, let me see. There's an error while deserializing, and it is actually for deserializing bedroom number. Okay, so I'll comment this one too, then later I'll show you how to solve it. Remember, I used watch, so this stuff is always rebuilding the build value class. So I'll go do a hot restart and see. Okay, so later on I'll show you how to tackle that error. I'll show you how to tackle the error while using a build value. So let's continue with this. So it's giving us, okay, so this is simple to solve. We've done similar stuff like this before. So in our property item, the row, this image is the first child. The second child is this container, so I'll just wrap this container in an expanded widget so it takes up the remaining space and doesn't grow larger than the remaining space. So I'll save this and that overflow should go. Cool. So we can continue with this, and I see the padding is quite much. So I think we had a padding in the search screen. Okay, cool. So we'll just remove this padding widgets. Cool. So the padding should be smaller now. Let's close up all these other stuffs we don't need for now. So property item, let's take a look at the reference image. So the image has a border radius, so let's go add that. Border radius, that's all. Radius that's circular, and we'll pass in 5. Okay, cool. I think Playmont is looking ugly. Let me just quickly change this. I don't like the look. The images are just looking so damn ugly. Sorry if you're from Playmont. So let's just, okay, not bad, but still bad. Okay, so the next thing to do would be for this row, or no, for this column inside here, let's do the cross-axis alignment to start, so everything goes to the, yeah, cool. So for the row, we'll do the cross-axis alignment to center. Center. Come down, body. Row cross-axis alignment. Why are you not coming down to the center? Okay, so for this expanded, for this container, let me see, would add a padding to the left, or no, since we've done the expanded. Okay, let's add a padding. Left of 8. Let's see how that looks. Okay, we'll make that 16. Okay. Then why is this guy not? The row has a height. Okay, let me just check something. Oops, I'll give it a padding of 8. Then for this column, what did I just do? Okay, well, first of all, let me do the main axis alignment of space evenly. Okay, is the height not okay? Okay, let me just leave this as only left. But there's something not looking right. Let's just continue. Okay, let me just swap this. Let the width be. What am I doing? Width 80, height 100. Yes. Okay, let me just continue with the styling. If there's something we change it as we progress. Then the color of this title. Okay, I see why. The text is actually wrapping to the next line. That is why. This title text is actually wrapping to the next line. That is why we can't see some space at the top, at the bottom. But you can see from my own, I added an ellipsis over here, and that's what we're gonna do right now. So let me see the property overflow, text overflow dot ellipsis. Cool. So everything is falling in place now. So the next thing would be also to give it a color, and we'll give it a style text style color dot colors dot deep purple. Cool. So the next one is gonna have style, and I'll get the style from the material design team. So texting dot body2 dot copy width. So copy width is going to give us the ability to add some extra property. So I'm copying it with the color property, and I'll pass colors dot gray. Cool. So the next one is this price formatted, and the price formatted, I'm going to also do something similar. I'm going to give it a headline material design theme. So I'll do style. Why am I typing this stuff? Okay, I could just declare the text theme and assign it to a variable up, but since we're already doing this, let me continue. So text theme dot headline okay, is it looking too big? Okay, so the next thing would be to actually create this final stuff over here, this icon. And to do that, I have already written the widget, so I'll just copy and paste it right now. And here is a view of the widget. So inside UI widget, you create a new file called text icon.dat, and this is what a text icon does. From the screenshot over here, you can see the text icon is used to lay out an icon and a text. So it also has some properties. So this text icon is used here, and it is also used here. So this is the same widget we are also using here, but we are using simple if-else statements and properties to control the type of display it shows. So for this, let's head to the code. So for this, you can see the text icon widget, which has four final fields, which is first the icon, the text you want to display, the is column boolean value. So if it is a column, it displays it like this. If the column is false, which is false by default, okay, which is true by default, it displays it like this. If you pass is column equals to false, it displays it just like this. So I also have size for the icon size and the text size, which is for making it small, while this one is also big. So let me just explain. Also has an assert statement. So the maximum size you can give while developing is 24 dp. So anything above 24 dp you pass is going to give you, it's going to generate an assertion exception. So for the build method, it's very simple. If it is a column, just lay out a column container with the icon on top and the text underneath. Then else, that means if its column is false, then just lay it out in a row, and you can see this is a row layout. So that is that. You can go through the code and see how it works, but I've covered most of all these things in our YouTube UI course, which you can check on my channel. So let's continue with this. So we're going to add this stuff in this row for the price formatted. So in this, after the text, we'll add text icon, text icon, and would import it. So what does text icon need? The first thing is the text. So the text is going to be property. Oops, I'll just give it let me see how this thing looks. Okay, I'll just give it, because you know from our build value types, we commented out the bedroom and the bedroom type because they were giving us errors. So we don't have them now. We don't have the bathroom and the bedroom. So I will just pass in 2 bedroom. Is it bedroom? Okay, I'll just pass in 2, then the icon. Okay, so the next one is the icon, and I'll use the font awesome icon. And where can I get that? Have I imported it before? Okay, so I'll just import it now. Font awesome, cool. Then I'll use the font awesome icon. Font awesome icon dot bed. Cool. So I'll do the same thing for the second one. So I'll just give it 1 font icon dot shower. And we'll save, and it will give us an error. Yes, cool. So you can see the error, not really an error, just it's showing you that it's overflowing. So let's go to the text icon and see. This is the size equals to 12. The icon is 12 by default, but it shouldn't be more than 24. Okay, so the first thing to do would be to put an expanded somewhere. Let me see from the picture, where can we add this expanded widget? Okay, I'll wrap this text over here, which is the price, in an expanded widget. These things in the YouTube course. The YouTube course is quite intensive for UI design, so you can see cool. Then it's complaining about the bottom overflow. Do I need to pass the size? Let me pass in the size of 8. I thought that was why I set this default stuff. Why are the sizes now big? Okay. Let me see. Okay, I just figured out why it's giving me this overlapping problem. You can see the height is overflowing by 4 pixels, and the reason is simple. If you head over to the text icon, you can see if its column is set to true, and remember, when it's set to true by default, it's going to give you a column layout. That is why you can see the icon and you can't see the text. But from the screenshot here, you see you can see the icon and the text, which is laid out in a row. So what we have to go do now in this property item is just to pass is column equals to false. Same thing for this. So to lay it out in a row. Whoa, this is looking nice. So I think we are, why is everything just showing by null? I think I made a mistake in my logic. Oops, there's a mistake in my logic for this stuff. Where are you? For this. Okay, so if property.listening, how will everything be null? It's not possible. So let me search somewhere else that I'm very sure of. I think there's a problem in my logic. Okay, there's no problem in my logic. You can see by John Hilton, by Austin Gray. So everything is working fine. So I think we've achieved this look. Have we? Something is looking big, or okay, it's looking okay. So the last thing to do here would be to add the divider and also the total results. So like I said, we would also replace this stuff, this 2 and 1 would also correct the reason why we're having that error with our deserialization. But I think I'll do that in the next video. So I think in this one, the next thing to do would be to go head over and put that bottom divider, and we'll do that in our search screen. So okay, so we'll return a column because we want to add a divider underneath this stuff. So after we return the property, we just return a divider and give it a height of 1. And let's see first, I think we also have to give it a color. Okay, so we give it a color of colors dot gray. Okay, and I'll wrap this in a padding of 16 symmetric. The horizontal padding should be horizontal padding should be 16 and not 8. Cool, this is looking cool. So the next thing and the final thing to do for this video would be to add this stuff up here, to add this result, and we've already gotten the result from our API here. You can see where are you? Okay, in our response we have total results, or I think would do that in the next video. So in the next video we'll add this, or let me just quickly do that right now. So total results, okay, this video is already long. We'll finish that up in the next video. So I'll see you in the next one.